So there were 4 X-Men books that were released this week. There was this one shot, Marvel Snapshots X-Men #1. There was Hickman's X-Men #12. There was Excalibur #12. And then there was giant-sized X-Men Storm. And I'll tell you, this was a very, very close #2 for me. Almost the best X-Men book that was released this week. Pretty close to it. Hickman barely beat this, but that's just because the prose in Hickman's book took so much time, I believe, to put together. This is just a very well-written story, and this did a couple things to me. It made me, for a very short amount of time, actually care about Scott Summers. And that is quite the feat for this writer to be able to do that to me. Again, I'm laughing. I think it's funny. Hey, look, I'm more of a Wolverine kind of guy myself. Definitely not the kind of person that would be rooting for, Mr. Good Guy Badge Cyclops. But look, this was depicted in such a fantastic way. The writing was spectacular. The art didn't necessarily push me into that 100% perfect perspective where I was like, yes, I'm rallying for this. But it was good. Okay, it was good. The color was interesting because it kind of gave it that 60s kind of look, so to speak. So the Snapshot series they seem to be following this kind of origin story kind of perspective. And so looking into who made this book, of course, Marvel Comics, Edidin, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. He's a new writer, I believe, because I have not seen him writing. Tom Reilly is the artist. Chris O'Halloran is the color artist. This, like I said, and so look, the creator here, it's Kurt Busiek, is putting these books out, and so he's working with all of these creators to create these kind of other worlds origin stories. Next is going to be Iron Man, which I like Tony Stark. Okay, yeah, why not? Actually, I hate to say it, but I like Robert Downey Jr. Tony Stark better than I like the original comics. It is one of the very few instances where I think that the MCU itself did a better job than the comic books themselves of depicting a character. And in this case, it was just Robert Downey Jr., Anyway, pushing all that to the side. This great book. So, a few things that I want to talk about. When he's writing this, he continues to bring back this one scene consistently. We're talking about the use of imagery in storytelling, right? And this is powerful. Jay in this book, his prose is so cool. He starts out with the car accident. He says, this is how it always begins. 4 people climb into a cockpit, strap in, take off. Something goes horribly, horribly wrong. I can never remember what happens next. He's having surgery done on him. He's having, people search for him. We're talking about the origin story of Cyclops right here. He wakes up screaming his brother's name, Alex. And everyone in his life continues to tell him, you don't have a brother. You don't have a brother. Of course, we all know that he does have a brother. He goes on to talk about how he's an orphan. He's lucky to be here. They say that sometimes. Not a lot of places would take a kid with my issues. I don't feel lucky. I feel like I'm still waiting to wake up from a nightmare. Like my whole life is someone else's. Too small coat. Like maybe I died and just didn't notice. I want you to let that dialogue, inner dialogue, mental dialogue, sneak into your psyche, right? How does that make you feel? Well, probably if you're anything like me, it made me feel the same way that I felt as an adolescent going through being an adolescent. Again, this book is told from the perspective of Scott Summers before he got his powers, and while he was actually going through that process. Just like many of the X-Men, the story is very similar. He was bullied and treated badly, and this is the same perspective, going back to it over and over, just like we saw in Claremont's run. All of these X-Men are different, just like all of us who were simply born different than other people. And it's an allegory into our own lives, where we can look at these changes that we're going through and the differences between us and everyone else, looking at normal, quote-unquote, people and thinking, I'm a freak. And this is absolutely the kind of perspective that you get into this, just like the origin stories of most of the X-Men. Again, fantastic writing for so many reasons. And this is the first time that Scott Summers sees superheroes, people who are different, who are fighting for a cause, and he's watching the Fantastic Four with Namor, and they're fighting, and he's wide-eyed and star-struck with these incredible people with abilities. He says, it's one of those things that splits your life into before and after. Last week, none of us had even heard the word superhero. Now they're all anyone talks about. But it's not like any of us will ever see one. Like they'd ever bother with a place like this. They shouldn't change anything, but somehow they change everything. Just by existing, they change the whole world. Everyone is thrilled, and somehow I feel more alone than ever. They talk like the Fantastic Four are movie characters, but they're real people. What they are, what happened, it was all an accident. 4 people climb into a cockpit, strap in, take off. Something goes horribly, horribly wrong. They could have done anything. They could have just gone back to their lives. But they did this. They helped people. It has to mean something. I need it to mean something. If you read this book and you aren't struck with the incredible writing in it, something's wrong with you. I hate to be so blunt. This is X-Men written at its best. I got a chill with almost every single time the writer here mentions what they are. 4 people climb into a cockpit, strap in, take off. Something goes horribly, horribly wrong. Again, the imagery there is absolutely fantastic. This is probably my strongest recommend since I read the last Wolverine comic book. That's not true. I believe that Wolverine number 4 by Benjamin Percy was a little bit better than number 5. It was fantastic. This group of crazy people was after Wolverine, and their human superiority cult or whatever. It was a great issue. Wolverine gets frozen in ice by Omega Red. Just fantastic. This is the best book that I've read since then. Again, very excited to see what happens with the rest of the series, but more than that, because I think this is the only one. This is the only book that has Edidin. I just don't know how to pronounce people's names, so I'm sorry if I'm butchering that. Look, huge recommend, everyone. I'm not going to keep you on here forever and hear me ramble all about this even deeper, but I'm going to tell you this. The imagery, the repeated imagery of that cockpit, those words that he consistently pushes to the forefront of this book 3 times is the charm when it comes down to it. So again, the writer of this really knows how to write well, and that's something that has been sorely discarded in so many modern comic books. So I give this book the highest praise. This is 5 out of 5, one of the best X-Men comic books that I have read in years. And I want to thank the entire creative team for putting this out. Thank you, everyone. I really look forward to seeing more from this writer specifically. Look, hey, it is no better time to go down to your comic shop and buy this comic. Absolutely pick this up this week. Support your local comic shop. You are the gateway into comics.